Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to today's lecture. So today we will try to close chapter 7 as we have already discussed a majority of the portion of chapter 7. Okay, but before I proceed, I would like you guys to present your doubts with respect to whatever we have discussed till now if you have any doubts. Okay, so just a quick recap of what we have covered. We started with, when we started chapter 7, we went through SA 700, 701, 705. With SA 705, we understood types of different type of opinions, and we saw real life examples of the different type of opinion, disclaimer of opinion, qualified opinion, the changes when a different type of opinion is there in the audit report. Let's say, for example, the change in the title, the change in the wordings, okay, change in the basis of opinion paragraph. When there is a disclaimer of opinion, changes in the again, the opinion paragraph, the disclaimer of opinion paragraph, basis of opinion paragraph, then the changes in auditor's responsibility paragraph in case of disclaimer of opinion, CAM and disclaimer of opinion. Okay, no to separate opinions in case of adverse or a disclaimer of opinion. We saw the different kind of wordings in case of a disclaimer, adverse and qualified one. When to give a qualified, when to give a adverse opinion based on the materiality and pervasiveness, okay, of the particular misstatement. Okay, so we understood what is pervasive and when to give, when to say the misstatement is pervasive. After that, we understood SA 701 in detail, like key audit matters, which matters can be classified as a key audit matter. Then what are the exclusions from the key audit matter? We saw the real life examples of the key audit matter. Okay, and then we understood how to report and what to report with respect to the key audit matters. We also saw an example where there was no key audit matter to be reported. Okay, so at that particular point in time, we understood like, okay, how to report when there is no CAM available. Okay, then we discussed about SA 706, that EOM paragraph and OM paragraph, when EOM paragraph will be appropriate, when OM paragraph will be appropriate. SA 600 and OM paragraph together. Okay, in case of a consolidated audit, we saw with an example. Remember that in case of a consolidated audit report, we saw that, okay, how OM paragraph changes. So I'll just show you that back, the audit report that we discussed. This is the other matter paragraph in case of consolidation. This is SA 706 plus my SA 600. Okay. Then we discussed about, like in which case, which paragraph will be there. When to use OM paragraph, when to use EOM paragraph. Okay. We saw some examples of EOM paragraph also. What is reported in EOM paragraph in detail. Then we discussed about SA 710. Okay, comparatives and you can say corresponding financial figures and comparative financial statement. We saw with an example what is the corresponding figure and what is the comparative financial statement. We took an example of DRHP. Remember that in DRHP we have comparative financial statement. So we saw one DRHP where the opinion was based on multiple years. Okay, in a single audit report, we are giving multiple opinions, multiple years. But when I talk about corresponding figures, it's the same, that our financial statement, that in our audit report we do not issue. Okay, we do not issue opinion on multiple years. Rather, we issue an opinion on a one particular year. But our financial statement on which the opinion is issued contains two different years. So the previous year is the corresponding figures. Okay. And what is the requirement of an auditor with respect to the corresponding figure, and what is the requirement of auditor with respect to the comparative financial information? We saw that. We saw, if If there is, an issue already identified in corresponding figure, then what to do? If we have identified issue in comparative financial statement, then what to do? Let's say, for example, corresponding figure identified material, there is a misstatement in the corresponding figures. Then only we need to refer that corresponding figure in our opinion. Otherwise, we should not refer corresponding figures in our opinion. Okay. Then we went to SA 720. We discussed about, auditor's responsibility with other information. We saw with example that, okay, what auditor is required to do, when auditor can refer, he needs to, ask management with respect to other information. Then what if he is not getting other information on time? How other information paragraph is there in the audit report? What is the responsibility of the auditor with respect to the other information, reading material inconsistency? Okay. And then, if auditor identified a material inconsistency, then what he needs to do? We discussed all these things in detail with example till now. So if you guys have any doubt with respect to all these matters and any of these matters, then please let me know. I'll take it up and I'll try to resolve. Okay? Any doubts? Any doubts? No? Okay, great. If no doubts, then let's proceed further. Meanwhile, during the session, if you come up with any doubt, do not hesitate in asking. Ask as many times as you can. There is no issue if you have already asked the doubt and it's a repetitive doubt. Perfectly fine. I'll take it up. Don't worry on that. Okay. Now, the next part I want to cover, let's go to the module itself, study material, and then let's see the next part that I want to discuss today. So as I said, SA 720, we have already covered this particular portion. So this is done. Okay. Now, the next part that I want to cover with respect to reporting is a part where the reporting comes through a law or regulation, specifically when I talk about Companies Act. Okay. Section 143 of the Companies Act is the one where, a reporting requirement comes into the picture for the auditor. Now, we have seen in our audit report. So in our audit report, we have a paragraph. Remember, I discussed this about this particular paragraph, the last one, that is legal and regulatory responsibilities of the auditor. Just let me show you that one. Other legal matters, kind of, there is a paragraph in the audit report which says that other legal matters. If you see this paragraph, which says that reporting on other legal and regulatory requirement, this paragraph or this particular section of the audit report is something I want to discuss now. Okay. Now, when I talk about this particular section, these reporting requirements are coming from or emanating from Companies Act or any other law or regulation which is applicable to a company, okay, or that particular entity. So when I say report on other legal and regulatory requirements, this is the reporting which is required to be done as per any law or regulation which is applicable to that entity. Or in most of the cases, we will see reporting requirements as per section 143(3) of the Act, which is this one. Okay, so section 143(3) of the Companies Act imposes a reporting requirement for the auditor, and that we need to understand. Okay, so what is the reporting requirement as per section 143 3 of Companies Act? Section 143, first of all, imposes two type of reporting requirement for a auditor, and section 143 is a main important section where reporting comes for the auditor. Now, when I say two major type of reporting requirements, that is the powers and duties of the auditor. The first part of section 143, that is 143(1), talks about duties of the auditor. Okay. And the second part is 143(3), which talks about reporting on additional matters by the auditor. Okay. So the first part, which I say is 143(1), that's the duties of the auditor. Section 143(1). Now, what are these duties of the auditor? What these duties says? Okay. So when I talk about duties of the auditor, and that is applicable to every company, there is no exemption with respect to these duties. Okay. So applicable to all companies, rather applicable to auditors of all companies or every auditor of a company. Okay. Now, what these duties talk about? These duties says that auditor is required to report first whether the loans and advances have made by the company on the basis of security have been taken properly, have been properly secured, and whether the terms on which they have been made are prejudicial to the interest of the company or its members. So, auditor is required to verify whether the loans and advances, okay, made by the company on the basis of security have been properly secured. So if any loans and advances which has been made by company are, whether are they properly secured, okay, and whether the terms of on which they have made, so terms of loans are prejudicial to the interest of the company, okay, are impacting negatively the interest of the company, and that you as an auditor we verify while doing the audit only. So during the audit, whatever loans and advances are given, we verify their agreements, we verify, okay, at what terms they have been given, what is the security, and if the loan and advances have been given to a corporate, then other sections of the company check whether they are compliant or not with respect to intercorporate loans and advances. Number two, whether the company to whom the loan has been given or any such entity is required to register a charge. If yes, then whether the corporate or entity has registered charge or not. So kind of, we then verify all the details of the loan given, the company or the entity, their financial condition, whether the repayment is done or not, whether the security is appropriate or not, whether the terms and conditions of the loan, like interest, time of repayment, amount, what is paid, are appropriate or not. Then second is whether the transactions of the company which are represented merely by book entries are prejudicial to the interest of the company. Prejudicial means negatively impacting. Okay. Now, if the transaction of the company, okay, kind of, if it is through a book entry, if that is through a book entry means not, means we have not received, cash or something. It's basically a journal entry. So if any transaction has been booked through a journal entry, which is merely a book entry, okay, whether that transaction is prejudicial to the interest of to the interest of the company. When I say prejudicial, it's a harmful or impacting negatively to the interest of the company. If yes, then we need to report that transaction. And how we will identify this particular area? Come on, guys. How will you identify this particular area? How will you audit for this? Like, if you want to identify these kind of transactions, okay, which are represented merely by book entries, how will you identify these one? Come on. So not only we are required to report, but you are required to audit simultaneously. So if you want to audit, you need to, identify these things in your audit also. But how will you identify? How will you audit these things? Can anyone tell me how you will audit point number B? We will not only discuss the reporting part, we will discuss how to audit also. And you have already learned that portion. There is nothing new. Just apply the logic. Come on. How will you audit this particular part? Anyone? How will you audit this particular part? Okay, good, Tanisha. Very good. Very good, Shruti. What else, guys? Simple. How will you audit this particular part? The question is this. Anyone? Very good, Viraj. Wonderful. So these kind of transactions, are of two types, basically. Either they will, if they are prejudicial to the interest of the company, either they will reduce the assets or they will increase the liability. If a book entry is either reducing your asset or increasing your liability, then there are high chances that it could be prejudicial to the interest of the company when this is only passed through a book entry. So you need to focus on these areas more. And when I say book entry, it's kind of a manual journal entry. We have already seen such thing, in SA 315. Sorry, SA 240, that we need to test for the manual journal entry because of the why we need to test manual journal entry as per SA 240. Anyone? Why we need to test manual journal entry as per SA 240? We have covered this part. So what is the reason, guys, for testing journal entry as per SA 240? Why SA 240 is saying that we need to test journal entry? Come on. Very good, Tanisha. Yes. Come on, guys. Why SA 240 says that we need to test journal entry? Very good, Shruti. Come on, guys. Come on. We have already covered this portion. Very good, Mohammed. Yes, absolutely correct. Because this has high chance of fraud risk. And which kind of fraud risk? Fraud risk is which is management override of control. Okay. Then that's why we can verify the book entries. We already do. We already do as per SA 240. Just we need to do a dual purpose testing. Dual purpose testing means you are testing same sample for two different things. Number one, I'm checking from the fraud risk point of view. Number two, I'm checking for the compliance of section 143(1). Then the third point, where the company not being an investment company or a banking company, whether so much of asset of the company consists of shares, debentures, and other securities have been sold at a price less than at which they were purchased. So, company other than investment company, if they have shares, debentures, and other securities, okay, sold at a price less than that at which they were purchased by the company. If that is the scenario, then we need to report that particular part. Then the next one is whether the loans and advances made by the company have been shown as a deposits. So there is a separate reporting requirement for a deposit and there is a separate reporting requirement for a loans and advance as per Schedule 3. So whenever you will audit loans and advance or deposit, you need to understand whether that's a loans or advance or it's a deposit. If a loans and advance is shown as a deposit, then there is a problem. Okay. And then there is an issue. So that's an incorrect reporting also, plus there is an issue also, plus you need to check the compliance with this particular part of the section 143. So there is three different issues. That's why while auditing the loans and advances or deposits, we need to check their nature, whether they are actually in of that nature. And if yes, then whether they are reported at appropriate place or not. Then whether personal expenses have been charged to the revenue account. If yes, then we are required to report, otherwise, no. Then whether it is stated in the books of accounts and documents of the company that any shares have been allotted for cash and whether the cash have been actually received in respect of such allotment. If no cash have been received, whether the position as stated in the accounts book and the balance sheet is correct, regular and not misleading. Means if any, if any, shares have been allotted for cash, if any shares have been allotted for cash, then whether cash have been actually received for the share allotment. That is a very important part to check. And if no cash has been actually received, then whether the position stated in the books of account is correct. Now, what happens is why this point is there. At times, what companies earlier, some companies were involved in a malpractice where they used to show, okay, cash issue, share issued in cash, and they used to show, okay, cash received, and that was a part of the black money or some other proceeds which were not shown through a regular way in the books of accounts. That's why this particular provision was brought into to check whether the actually the shares which are being allotted are allotted to genuine shareholders which are paying amount, or if some bogus shareholders which are not paying amount, but the company is routing their undisclosed money through these shareholders by allotting the shares. Okay, so that is the point number F. Clear? Any doubt till now? Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? No? Okay, great. So these were the matters, or these are the matters where auditor is required to inquire. Okay, as an auditor, and it's a duty of auditor to inquire. And if there is anything, okay, if there is anything with respect to these matters, then auditor is required to report. Okay. Then the next part is 143.3 of the Companies Act, where the auditor is required to state few things. Okay, auditor is required to state few things as per the section itself. It's also kind of a duty of an auditor to report. Okay, section 143.3 of the Companies Act. Again, very important section. Okay, because it provides a lot of reporting requirements, one of which is IFC reporting, one of which is reporting on other important matters that we'll see now. Okay, so the first one is whether the auditor has sought and obtained all the information and explanation which, to the best of his knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of audit. If not, the details thereof and the effect of such information on the financial statement. So whether he has received such information or not. Okay. Now, this will be the scenario of issue when you are issuing a disclaimer of opinion, or you are issuing a qualified opinion or an adverse qualified opinion when you have not received the information. Otherwise, auditor will always say that he has sought and obtained all the information. That's why he is either able to issue a unmodified opinion or a modified opinion to that extent. Then auditor is required to report whether, in his opinion, proper books of account as required by law have been kept by the company as so far appears from his examination of those books of accounts, and proper returns and adequate for the purpose of his audit have been received from the branches not visited by him. So two things. One, proper books of account as required by the law. Number two, proper returns from the branches where he has not visited. So whether he has received the information required, okay, for the purpose of audit from the branches which are where he has not visited. So if yes, then he need to report accordingly. Then third, whether the report on the accounts of any branch office of the company audited under subsection 8. Okay. Now subsection 8 of the Companies Act says that, like 143.8 talks about where a company has a branch office, the accounts of that office are also required to be audited by either the auditor appointed by the company, that's the statutory auditor, or any other qualified person to be an auditor of the company under this act. So any other auditor any other person who can be appointed as an auditor, or appointed under section 139 of the act. And where the branch is situated outside India, then auditor as per the local laws. Person qualified to be an auditor as per the local laws. Okay. Then whether that person has been appointed or not. So whether the report on the accounts of branch, okay, of the company were audited under subsection 8 by a person other than the company's auditor has been sent to him under the provision to that subsection and the manner in which he has dealt with that particular. So proviso to the subsection 8 talks about that the branch auditor shall prepare a report on the accounts of branch examined by him, and he is required to send that report to the auditor of the company, who is required to deal with that report while preparing his final report. So whether reports on accounts has been reports on branch accounts has been audited or prepared or not. If prepared, then whether it has been sent to him under the provision of not. And the third part is the manner in which he has dealt with the report that was shared from the branch auditor, okay, while preparing his report. Shruti, I'll definitely come to 143.2 after this one. Okay. Any doubts, guys? Any doubts till now? Any doubts? No? Okay. If no further doubts, let's proceed. Now, let's say we have discussed the first 3 points. Let us see the first 3 points, how they are reported in the audit report, basically. With an example. So the first point was whether he has sought or obtained all the information and explanation which is best to the knowledge and belief were necessary for the purpose of audit. So how auditor reports is when he gets all the information, he says that okay, we have sought and obtained all the information and explanation to the best of our knowledge and belief were necessary for the purpose of audit. So if not, then he is required to give the details. But here he has received everything. So he has, not mentioned that, okay, I have not received because he has received everything. So if the auditor does not receive any such information, okay, in that case, he can, specify, okay, he has not received the information and what information he has not received is that one. For example, this case, this is a disclaimer of opinion, okay, because they have not received some information. Now, if they have not received the information in, section 143 paragraph, what they will report is as described. See the change in wording. As described in the basis of disclaimer of opinion paragraph above, we sought but were unable to obtain all the information and explanation to the best of our knowledge and belief were necessary for the purpose of audit. So this changes with opinion. If they have not received, then they will specify that they have not received the information. Okay. Otherwise, the auditor will specify that he has received all the information necessary and for the purpose of his audit. Let's see. We'll see another example of this. Now, this is for the consolidated financial statement. We saw standalone financial statement till now. Now, let's see one for the consolidated. So, see in the consolidated financial statement, okay, as required by section 143 of the Act, based on our audit and on the consideration of the reports of other auditors on separate financial statement of subsidiaries and associates, as were audited by other auditors, as noted in other matter paragraph, we report to the extent applicable that. So first of all, they are providing a reference to the auditor report of the auditors on separate financial statement of subsidiaries and associates, which were audited by, sorry, sorry, yeah, which were audited by other auditor, okay, not by them, and that they are providing reference of other matter paragraph of the audit report. Okay. Now, the next part. We have sought and obtained all the information and explanation which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit and for the aforesaid consolidated financial statement. So they say that, okay, whatever information was necessary for the audit of consolidated financial statement, we have received. Next point. In our opinion, except for the matters described in the basis of qualified opinion section, proper books of accounts as required by law pertaining to the aforesaid consolidated financial statement has been kept so far as it appears from our examination of those books and reports of the other auditor. So two things. Number one, referring to basis of qualified opinion because there is a qualification. means proper books have not been taken care or have not been taken to that particular extent. Okay, proper books have not been kept for that particular extent. So that's why they are referring to this basis of qualified opinion. And when they are saying that examination of books, they are also mentioning that examination of the reports of other auditors, because this is the audit of consolidated financial statement. But when I will go to the standalone financial statement, how this point is written? Simple, pretty simple. In our opinion, proper books of accounts as required by law have been kept by the company so far as it appears from our examination of those books. So no mention of reports of other auditors. Now, one example we will see with respect to disclaimer of opinion, how this changes when it comes to disclaimer of opinion. See, this is the disclaimer of opinion. Due to the possible effects of the matter described in the basis of disclaimer of opinion paragraph above, we are unable to state whether the proper books of accounts as required by law has been kept by company so far it appears from examination of those books. Because they were not able to get any information, they cannot comment. They are unable to comment. Okay, state that whether proper books of accounts have been kept by the company or not. So they are kind of providing a reference for the basis of disclaimer of opinion paragraph. Why? Reason because if you see the requirement says that if proper books of accounts have not been kept, then the auditor is required to provide the details. So they are providing the details of basis of opinion paragraph. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt? Okay. Third point, which was with respect to the report on accounts of any branch. In a normal audit report, okay, if that is not applicable, their branch audit and everything, then they will not include that particular point if that is not applicable. Okay, but if that is applicable, then only it will be included. So again, this is a direct bank, so you have a different legal and reporting matters over here. This is the because it's a bank, it's in different form, so you have a different reporting legal and reporting paragraph. Okay, but if I show you some other audit report, just a minute, let me open one more where I could share a branch. Just a minute. Again, do not go on the name of the company. Okay, it is only for the reference purpose, publicly available data. Just a minute. Okay, so other legal and regulatory requirements. So again, not applicable, branches not applicable to them. So they are not mentioned that particular point. Fine. If branch is applicable, then they usually mention that point. But if that is not applicable, then they will not mention that particular point. If there is no different branch auditor per se for that particular company. Okay. Fine. Then the next point is with respect to whether the balance sheet, profit and loss account dealt within the report are agreement in with the books of account or not. Okay. So whether the balance sheet and profit and loss account, okay, company's balance sheet and profit and loss account dealt within the report are in agreement with the books of accounts and returns or not. So how usually it is reported? So the balance sheet, the statement of equity, okay, the balance sheet, profit and loss account, other comprehensive income, statement of changes in equity, and statement of cash flow dealt with this by this report are in agreement with the relevant books of account. So Companies Act only provided two references, balance sheet and P&L, but now there are other statements also which are dealt through the audit report, and where that is mentioned. So guys, where these statements are mentioned, the name of statements, if I want, if you want to understand, why we are mentioning all these things, we need to understand why we are, from where we are referring these names. So the question comes is where the names of these statements are mentioned in audit report other than this particular paragraph, and why, like, on what basis they are mentioned over there. So I am referring that balance sheet, statement of P&L, other comprehensive changes in equity, cash flow dealt with by this report. So where it has been mentioned that this report is dealing in all these statements, in which paragraph it is written that? Come on, guys. In which paragraph in the audit report we write that this audit report is, on these statements? Where we write this? Which paragraph? Come on, guys, quickly. Which paragraph is that one where we write, okay, the names of the statement? Come on, quickly. Which is that paragraph? Very good, Shruti. Very good. Come on, guys, come on. Which is that paragraph? Very good, Tanisha. Good. Anyone? Come on, we have discussed the whole audit report, and I'm just asking a simple question where the name of statements are mentioned. In which paragraph? That's the basic thing. Tomorrow, if you are asked to draft a particular part of the audit report, how will you draft that? If you are not aware that where these particular names are mentioned in the whole audit report, how will you draft a particular part of the audit report? So these names of the statement are mentioned in the opinion paragraph, the first paragraph. See, over here, we have audited the accompanying standalone financial statement of the company, which includes balance sheet, statement of profit and loss accounts, including other comprehensive income, statement of change in equity, statement of cash flow for the year and then ended, including a summary of significant accounting policy and other explanatory information. Yes, Shruti, why not? It can come. So that is the first paragraph. So starting of the audit report, which provides, uh, uh, you know, which financial statements are covered in this particular audit report. Okay. Then just a minute. Yeah. Then the next part is with respect to whether, in auditor's opinion, the financial statement comply with the accounting standard. If yes, then accordingly he will reply yes, they are complying. But if no, then he will reply accordingly. Let's see one example. So in our opinion, the said standalone financial statement comply with the Ind AS specified under section 133 of the Act. So if they are complying, they will say it's complying. If they are not complying, like in a disclaimer of opinion, if there's an issue, what they will write is they are not sure. See, due to possible effects of the matter described in the basis of disclaimer of opinion paragraph above, we are unable to state whether the aforesaid standalone Ind AS financial statement comply with the Ind AS prescribed under section 133 of the Act. Means they are unable to state because of the disclaimer of opinion. So, disclaimer of opinion is changing. Okay, the wordings of these reporting requirement as per so disclaimer of opinion or the opinion has an impact on additional reporting as per Companies Act. Then next part is the observations or comments on the auditors of so if the auditor has any observation or comments on the financial transaction or the matter which have adverse effect on the functioning of company, if there is any such thing, then auditor is required to report here. Okay. Any observations with respect to the financial transactions or matters which have adverse effect on the functioning of company. Usually, that is not the case, because if it is an adverse opinion, then it might come into the picture. Otherwise, not. But here, if you see in the disclaimer of opinion, what they are writing is the matter described in the basis for disclaimer of opinion paragraph above, in our opinion, may have an adverse effect on the functioning of company. Again, that totally depends upon the type of opinion that is being issued. It totally depends on that type of opinion. So, for example, if this is also a which opinion this time? This was a clean opinion, unmodified opinion. Yeah, this was the disclaimer of opinion. And if you see again in other legal and regulatory reporting requirements, the matters described in the basis for the disclaimer of opinion and material uncertainty relating to the going concern sections above, in our opinion, may have an adverse effect on the functioning of company. So they are writing that it will have a adverse effect on the functioning of company. So this is how they are writing when there are certain transactions. So because if you have a transaction, either that will be part of your basis for qualified opinion or any other material uncertainty paragraph. If that is the case, then auditor will provide a reference to that paragraph and accordingly he will write that particular point. So no need to repeat the whole matter again. Okay, no need to repeat whole matter again, but a paragraph of the audit report, then you can refer to that particular paragraph. Okay. Whether any director is disqualified from being appointed as a director under section 2 of section 164. If yes, then it is required to be reported. Any qualification, reservation, or adverse remark relating to the maintenance of accounts and other matters connected there within. In normal report, you will not identify. But again, in case of a disclaimer of audit, disclaimer of opinion, you will find this one. That reservations relating to the maintenance of books of accounts and other matters connected therewith are stated in the basis of disclaimer of opinion paragraph above. Next part, whether the company has adequate internal controls with reference to the financial statement in place for the operating effectiveness of such controls. Okay, so whether the company has adequate internal financial control with reference to financial statement in place and the operating effectiveness of such controls. Okay, however, this is not applicable to certain kind of companies. So not applicable to one-person company, small company, company having turnover less than 50 CR as per the latest audited financial statement, and which has borrowings from a bank or financial institutions at any point of time, okay, less than 25 CR. So to summarize, OPC, small company, or that is the first point, or second, company, okay, private company, there should be two conditions: turnover less than 50 crores, borrowings less than 25 CR. If these two conditions are satisfied, then only, because it says and in between. If these two conditions are satisfied, then only we will say okay, the exemption is there. So let me show you one example. Let us discuss one example with this part. Now I will specify some companies. Okay, we need to understand whether these companies, like whether to these companies, this requirement will be applicable or not. Kindly assess whether section 143(3)(I) of the Companies Act is applicable to following companies. Okay, whether it is applicable to the following companies or not: name of company, turnover as per, you call it preceding or latest, okay, audit report. Then you have a borrowings, okay, that is a max limit or the top limit till which it went in a year. Okay, then we have a share capital, some additional numbers I'm providing over here so that it will be easy for us to discuss. Uh-huh. Just a minute. Okay. So these are the things. Now let me provide the name of company. ABC Limited. Okay. Then we have PQR Private Limited. Then we have XYZ Private Limited. Okay. Then we have MNO. Okay. OPC Private Limited. Then we have HEF Private Limited. Okay, we have these companies. Now, first company, our turnover, okay, the turnover for this particular company is, let's say, 30 crores. Borrowings was 15 crores. Paid up share capital is 1 crore. Then PQR Private Limited. Okay. Now, for PQR Private Limited, what we have is we have turnover, which is 35 crore. We have a borrowings of 10 crores. And we have a paid up share capital of 10 crores. XYZ Private Limited. Okay. For XYZ Private Limited, what we have? So for XYZ Private Limited, we have that turnover, let's say 45 crores. My borrowings, again, 15 CR. And my share capital, let's say it's 11 crores. Then MNO Private Limited, OPC, we have turnover, which is 60 crores. We have borrowings, which is 10 crores. Or we have, let's say, for example, borrowings, not 10, but let's say 35 crores. And we have paid up share capital of 10 CR. We have a HEF Private Limited. Okay. For which we have a turnover of, okay, we have a turnover of, let's say, 48 CR. We have a borrowings of, okay, we have a borrowings of, let's say, again, more than, I will say, 30 CR. And we have a paid up share capital of 1 CR. Okay. So this is the arrangement basically. Now, you need to tell me whether CARO will be, sorry, this section 143, section 143 3I will be applicable or not. Yes or no. And with reason why. With reason why, whether it will be applicable or not. Come on, guys. Whether it will be applicable or not, with reason. Come on, guys. 143.3i, we saw the exemption. Now, based on that exemption, we need to understand whether it will be applicable to these companies or not. You need to answer yes or no with the reason why for all these companies. Come on, quickly. With reason, huh? I want answer with reason. I want answer with reason, guys. Okay, very good, Sailesh. Very good, Tanisha. Good. Come on, guys. We need to understand one by one the reason. I want answer with reason. Why do you think it is applicable or it is not? Come on, guys, quickly. I want answer with reason. Why do you think it will be applicable or it will not be applicable? I'll add one more company basically over here. Let's say JKL Private Limited, okay, which has a turnover of, let's say, 35 crore, which has a borrowing of, let's say, 45 crore, and which have a, paid up share capital of 3 crores. So majority, a huge borrowing company having a huge borrowing, JKL company. So for this company also, like you need to tell whether it will be applicable or not. Come on, guys. Very good, Yadu. Yadu Kondalu. Very good. Okay, very good, Salish. Let us see one by one in each scenario what is the case, and then we discuss in detail. Okay. First one, it's a ABC Limited. It's a public limited company. Now, if this is a public limited company, it's not a private limited, not a PVT, Ltd. Hence, it will be applicable by default. So answer will be yes, it is applicable. The reason it's not a private limited company. Second, PQR Private Limited. PQR Private Limited, first of all, I need to check whether it is a small company. What is the condition for small company, guys? What is the condition for small company? What is the condition for small company, guys? So it's not an OPC. What is this condition for small company? Come on, quickly. Section 285 of the Companies Act. What is the conditions of small company? So section 285 of Companies Act, okay, says that turnover and paid up share capital, turnover less than 40 CR, paid up share capital less than 4 CR. If these two conditions are satisfied, then it will be a small company. So first condition is 40 and our paid up share capital 4. So I'll write 40 over here and I'll write 4. So I need to check for small company whether it's a 40 and below 4 or not. So this is 35, 40, but this is not less than 4. So this is not a small company. Okay, fine. The exemption which is given for the private limited companies other than small company is that the turnover less than 50 and the borrowings less than 25. Okay. Turnover less than 50 and the borrowings less than 25. Turnover less than 50 CR and borrowing at any point in time less than 25 CR. If that is a scenario, in that case, we need to say, okay, the exemption will be available. So this is a private limited company. Turnover less than 50. Yes, it is less than 50. 35 is less than 50. Then my borrowings less than 25. Yes, less than 25. So I will get a private limited company exemption and it will not be applicable to me. Okay. XYZ private limited. Again, I will see on these three parameters, OPC, small and private limited. So first of all, it's not a OPC. Fine. Small, for small, turnover less than 40, turnover exceeding 40. I'll not check the share capital because turnover is already existing. So it's not a small. Now private limited. Turnover less than 50, yes. Borrowing less than 25, yes. Then private limited exemption will be applicable and it will not be, the requirement of section will not be applicable over here. Next one, MNO OPC. Now, in case of MNO OPC, it's a OPC by default. I'll not check any other condition, not applicable. Then HEF. Again, I will check on these three parameters, small, OPC and private. It's not a OPC because usually for OPC, you have that name where the OPC is mentioned. Small, turnover is more than 40, so it's also not a small. Now, for the requirement of private limited, turnover less than 50, yes, that is less than 50. Whether borrowings less than 25? No, borrowings is not less than 25, it's 30. That's why private limited exemption will also not be applicable. And yes, they have to comply, or auditor has to report under section 143(3)(I) of the Act. JKL Private Limited. I will check OPC, small, and private on these three parameters. Okay. So on these three parameters, what will be the scenario is? First, whether OPC. So OPC, it should be less than 40. OPC, no, it's not an OPC. Small, less than 40 and less than 4. Yes, this is less than 40 and less than 4. Paid up share capital less than 4, turnover less than 40. So small exemption is available. If that is a small company, irrespective, this is more than 25, it will not matter. So, not to be considered. Because first, I will consider the small company. If that is a small company, then I will follow that. Otherwise, if not a small company, then I will go and check private limited exemption. That's why the sequence should be that OPC, small, and then private. So this is a small company and hence it is not applicable. Turnover condition is 50. I have a turnover is 48. Okay. Although, turnover is 48, but to have an exemption, I need to comply with both of the conditions, turnover and my borrowings. So that's an and in between. I need to comply with both conditions in order to get an exemption for a private limited. That it should be turnover less than 50 and again, and my aggregate borrowings at any point should be less than 25. If my aggregate borrowing is more than 25, over the my turnover is less than 50, then I will not get an exemption. Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? No? Okay. If no doubts, then let's proceed further. So this is how it will work with respect to 143(3)(I). Now the question comes is when this particular section is applicable, when this subsection is applicable, how the report is drafted, what are the contents of the report. I'll just quickly show you this report under section 143(3)(I) of the Companies Act. See over here, with respect to the adequacy of the internal financial controls, with reference to financial statement of the company, okay, the operating effectiveness of such control, refer to our separate report in Annexure B. Let's see the Annexure B and just try to understand the report. This is Annexure B to the Independence Auditor report, okay, which talks about report on internal financial control with reference to the aforesaid standalone financial statement under clause I of subsection 3 of section 143 of the Act. Again, this is your title, kind of. And again, refer to the paragraph. That's a reference that has been given. We will follow the same pattern. We'll start with the opinion. We'll have the opinion over here. So this is title of opinion, which says that we have audited the internal financial control with reference to financial statement of the company as on this particular date in conjunction with our audit of standalone financial statement of the company for that year end date. Okay. In our opinion, the company has in all material respect adequate financial control with reference to financial statement, and such internal financial control were operating effectively as on 31st March 2023 based on the internal financial control with reference to the financial statement criteria established by the company, considering the essential components of the internal control stated in the guidance note on audit of internal financial controls over financial reporting issued by the institute. So, three things. Number one, first, that the company has in all material respect adequate financial controls with reference to the financial statement. Number two, they have that, based on the criteria established by the company, considering the essential components stated in the guidance note. Okay. So based on the criteria established by the company, considering the essential components of internal control. So they are comparing with the criteria over here, kind of an applicable financial reporting framework. So whenever you evaluate a financial statement, you evaluate with respect to a criteria. The criteria is applicable financial reporting framework in order to decide whether the financial statement are as per the requirement or not. So you have a criteria, and on basis of that criteria, you match the actual financial statement. Here, the criteria is established by the company itself. But how company is establishing that criteria based on the guidance note issued by the ICAI. So three things. None, the auditor is saying they are working appropriately, okay, in all material respect. Number two, in comparison to when I say working appropriately in all material respect, that is with reference to the criteria established by company and how the criteria has been established by the company based on the guidance note of ICAI. These three things. That is an opinion issue. Then management and board of directors responsibility. That is the responsibility of board of directors to establish and maintain internal financial control, of the company and the criteria, everything about this. These include responsibility, including design, implementation, maintenance of adequate internal financial control that were operating for ensuring orderly and efficient conduct of business, and that the same story. Then auditor's responsibility. Auditor's responsibility to express an opinion on the internal financial control with respect to the financial statement based on the audit. The audit is conducted based on the guidance note and standard auditing prescribed under section 143. Then, so same line. Okay. And the way we write in our normal audit report, in our auditor's responsibility, that we believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our audit opinion on the company's internal financial control with reference to financial statement. And then part where it is Meaning of internal financial control with reference to financial statement. To explain what is the internal financial control. Okay, in detail. And then you have an inherent limitation of the internal financial control with reference to financial statement. Okay. So possibility of the collusion and improper management, override of control. So these are the inherent limitation. By default, fraud risk. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? So criteria kind of, with the thing with whom you will compare. I compare financial statement with the criteria established by section schedule 3 or Ind AS. Okay. So Ind AS or schedule 3 tells me how to prepare the financial statement. So that is the criteria. Same way for the internal financial controls with respect to financial reporting. Okay. Now the criteria is as per the guidance note. So guidance note tells the company or the auditor that how these controls should be designed and implemented. So we compare the controls with the criteria provided in the guidance note. Simple. Any doubt, guys, with respect to this one? So this is the report as per section 143(3)(I) of the Companies Act. So we saw the exemption part, we saw the report part, and we understood in detail what is to be reported under this particular clause. Okay. Then such other matters as may be prescribed under Rule 11 of the Companies Act. So such other matters as may be prescribed. And for that, there is a Rule 11 of the Companies Audit and Auditors Rule 2014, which prescribes certain additional points which are required to be included or auditor is required to comment on these matters. They are whether the company has disclosed the impact, if any, of pending litigations on its financial position in financial statement. So kind of, impact of pending litigations. And that is, I'll show you one example. So how they write is, the company has disclosed the impact of pending litigations as of 31st March 23 on its financial position in standalone financial statement, refer note 21 and 24 of the FSS. Okay. So if company has reported, then yes. If not, then again, we will refer to the disclaimer for opinion or any other paragraph where we have provided that qualification. Whether the company has made provision as required by under law or accounting standards for material foreseeable losses, if any, on the long-term contracts, including derivative contracts. So, provision for material foresee losses. The company did not have any long-term contracts for which there was any material foreseeable losses. The company had made provisions as required under the applicable law and accounting standards for material foresee losses on derivative contracts. Refer note 46 to the standalone financial statement, if there is any. Okay. But in case when that is not applicable, it is usually written that it is, there is no such requirement or no such, losses available. So the company has made provision as required under the applicable laws or accounting standard for material foresee losses, if any, on long-term contracts, including derivative. So the word if any says there is none to report. Then we have whether there is a delay in transferring the amounts required to be transferred to the investor education and protection fund by the company. So we'll see one example over here. There was an instance of delay of 15 days in transferring the amount of 1 CR pertaining to unpaid dividend required to be transferred to the investor education and protection fund of the company. So if there is a delay, then you are required to specify the details of the delay. If there is no delay, then usually the auditor will write there has been no delay in transferring the amount required to be transferred to the fund. Then these are the additional points which were later added to Rule 11, which is whether the management has represented it to the best of its knowledge and belief that other than the disclosed in the notes of accounts that no funds have been advanced or loan or invested by the company to or in any other person or entity, including foreign entities, with the understanding whether the records in writing or otherwise that the intermediary, whether directly or indirectly, lend or invest in other person or entities identified in a manner whatsoever on behalf of the company, or provide any guarantee, security, or like on behalf of the ultimate beneficiaries. So what this says is, first of all, it talks about whether management has represented. So talking about representation by management. Second, it says that whether the company has transferred funds, okay, to any other intermediaries. And what, why they have transferred the funds to the intermediary with an understanding that they will transfer directly or indirectly or invest, okay, in other persons or entities identified by the company. So by this company, okay, and that will be known as an ultimate beneficiaries. So whether company has given any fund to the intermediaries to provide them to the ultimate beneficiaries, if yes, then whether the management has represented, okay, but usually the management should provide you representation that they have not done this, or if they have done this, then they have reported this. So whether management has represented that other than, this part is very important, other than disclose in the notes to account. If management has done this particular type of transaction, then they are required to report in FS. So other than the items which are reported in financial statement, whether management has provided you a representation that there are no other transactions of such nature other than what are reported in FS. That is the part. That is, requirement over here. Whether you have taken the representation with respect to this part or not. That is one number. Second number on the similar line is whether the management has represented it that to its best of knowledge and belief, other than disclosing the notes of accounts, no funds have been received by the company from any person, entity, including foreign entities, with the understanding whether recorded in writing or otherwise that the company shall, whether directly or indirectly, lend, invest in other persons or entities identified in manner on behalf of funding party or provide any guarantee security. So here the transaction is company is the intermediary. So management is representing, should represent that other than disclosed in the notes of account, there should be no such transaction. Which transaction? That from funding party whether company has received any funds with an understanding to invest in ultimate beneficiary. Now earlier the company was a funding party. The company was a funding party and company was giving fund to intermediaries. Now company is an intermediary in second point. who is receiving the funds to invest in ultimate beneficiaries. So, other than disclose, there should not be any such transaction, and that representation management should provide you. So, you need to report whether you have received that representation or not. The third point is based on such audit procedures that the auditor has considered, okay, whether the auditor has considered reasonable and appropriate in the circumstances, nothing has come to their notice that caused them to believe that the representation made in 1 and 2 contain any misstatement. Means if any representation has been made by the management in 1 and 2, do you think that that is appropriate and correct, or have you identified any misstatement? That is point number 3, validating the representation of 1 and 2. So this is kind of validating the representation of 1 and 2. This is 1 and 2. Okay. Then we have whether the dividend declared or paid during the year by the company is in compliance with section 143 or 123 of the Companies Act. Dividend paid or declared, if any. And the last one is whether the company has used accounting software for maintaining its books of account, which is a feature of recording audit trail facility, and the same has been operated throughout the year for all the transactions recorded in the software, and the audit trail feature has not been tampered with, and the audit trail has been preserved by the company as per the statutory requirement of record retention. So audit trail. Okay, last one. So accounting software for maintaining its books of accounts with feature of recording the audit trail, and whether that was operated throughout the year for all the transactions, and whether it has been tempered or not. So if you see reporting actually done for this, so that the reporting is applicable from 1st April 2023. So as of now, for financial statement prepared for 22-23, it is not applicable. So accordingly, they have written as proviso to Rule 3.1 of the Companies Accounts Rule 2024, it is applicable for the companies with effect from 1st April 2023. And reporting under Rule 11G of the Companies Act, auditor rule is not applicable as of now. So this one will be applicable basically in the next financial statement. Okay, so that is the reporting requirement as per section 143 of the Companies Act. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Any doubt? No? Okay. If no further doubts, let's take a quick 10-minute break, and after the break, we'll gather back and continue the session. Okay. Let's take a quick 10-minute break. Hello everyone, welcome back to the session. Okay, let's continue the topic and discussion. So we have discussed till now section 143.3 of the Companies Act. Now a very important section I want to discuss, that is 143.12 of the Companies Act, which is with respect to reporting of fraud by the auditor. Okay, section 143.12 of the Companies Act requires auditor to report, okay, where the auditor has a reason to believe that an offense has been conducted, okay, where there is an offense which has been, offense of a fraud involving as amount as prescribed has been committed in the company by its officer or employees, okay, then the auditor is required to report the matter to the central government as it is as may be prescribed. So section 143.12 of the Companies Act is with respect to reporting of a fraud. Okay. Now that again, that is a part where additional reporting is there over and above what you report in audit report. This is an additional reporting over and above what you report. What are the contents of the audit report? That's an over and above reporting. Okay. Now, if an auditor, so what section says is, if an auditor of the company in the course of performance his duties as an auditor has a reason to believe that an offense of fraud involving such amount or amounts as may be prescribed. I'll come to the amount portion, but if an offense of fraud involving an amount is being or has been committed in the company, means if it is happening now or has happened past by its officer or employees, then the auditor is required to report the matter to the central government within such time or manner as may be prescribed. Okay, so let's bifurcate this particular part. Number one, which talks about that if an auditor, now the responsibility is on auditor of the company. Okay, if an auditor has a reason to believe, not actual fraud, but if he has a reason to believe that the fraud have conducted, an offense of fraud involving such amount being committed in the company or has been committed. So he should have a reason to believe, not the actual evidence we are talking about as of now, but there should be something on the basis of which he should have a reason to believe. Okay, not a foolproof evidence report and everything. No. So again, when he has a reason to believe that an offense of fraud involving such amount, we'll talk about the amount in a while. Okay, we'll talk about the amount in a while, but involving such amount, basically, which is being committed or has been committed. Again, is being committed as of now or has been committed in the past. Again, now here the duration where in past is not given. It might have been committed in previous year, but you are identified now. So there is no restriction that it should be of current year itself. No. Has been committed in past, it may be of previous year. So the terms and the wordings of the provision talks about maybe current year, maybe previous year, but you are identified during the course of audit. That is a part. So it has been identified during the course of audit. Okay. So if an auditor has a reason to believe about an offense of fraud is being committed or has been committed in the company by its employees or officers, doesn't make any difference. Employees and officers will cover everything. The auditor shall report the matter, okay, to the central government. Now, within such time and manner as may be prescribed. Now, when I talk about amount, such amount or amounts as may be prescribed. So, wherever the term prescribed is there, such amount or amounts as may be prescribed, or such time or manner as may be prescribed, that is as per Rule 13. So, this prescribed thing is specified in Rule 13 of companies auditors and audit and auditors rule. So let me provide you. So rule 13 says that talks about basically the amount and the time and manner. Okay. Now, first let's talk about the amount of rule 13. So the amount of rule 13 basically, is with respect to 1 CR. Okay. So if the auditor has a reason to believe that an offense of fraud, okay, which involves or is expected to involve an individual amount of 1 CR or above, then that matter should be reported to the central government. Now, again, not only 1 CR of amount of 1 CR or above, but the term, focus on the terminology here, which involves or is expected to involve individually an amount. Again, not in combination, but individually, okay, which involves or is expected to involve this particular amount. Why the term expected to involve is there? The reason because expected to involve in case when I'm saying I have a reason to believe. If I have a reason to believe means I don't have all the evidence in my hand. So whatever amount I am talking about here, it could be, amount which might not be definite. Like, I cannot commit the amount. I cannot for sure tell you a definite amount, but I can give an estimation of the amount. So that's why involves or expected to involve, kind of an estimation of the amount. And if the estimation or the actual amount is more than 1 CR or above, individually, then that matter is required to be reported to the central government. So the amount is 1 CR or above, which includes estimated amount also. So this refers to this includes the estimated amount also. Okay. Because the term expected is used. That's a very important part we need to understand. Okay. It is applicable to all companies. So section 143.12 talks about if an auditor of a company means all companies. So this is applicable to all companies. Applicable to auditor of all companies. Simple. Now the manner. So we saw the amount. Now we need to see the time and manner in which it is required to be reported. Okay, the time and manner. So now based on the time, auditor is required to report the matter to the board or audit committee within 2 days of his knowledge. So to seek their response. Okay. So auditor is required to report the matter. Okay. Is required to report the matter within 2 days. Okay. Of his knowledge, seeking the response. Or observation, seeking a reply or observation from them. Kind of, and he needs to provide them 45 days. Okay. So he needs to provide 45 days time and, within 2 days, he needs to respond them to back. Okay. So the time period is 2 days. Now, 2 days is required to be considered from the date of knowledge of the fraud. Okay. And that is required to be reported the matter to the board of directors and audit committee. Okay. So that is the time to report to the board of directors. Now, for that, we need to provide them 45 days to respond. On receipt of the observation, now, or response from the management or board of directors, okay, the auditor is required to forward his report and reply whatever he has received from the board or, the directors, to the central government within 15 days from the date of receipt of such observation. Okay, so now then the time limit is next within 15 days from the date of, the reply has been received from the board or audit committee. Okay, so first 2 days I will take to report to the board of directors or audit committee maximum. Then I will wait for 45 days for their reply. If I get early reply, then within 15 days from the date of reply, I will forward to the central government. Okay. If I do not receive the reply within 14 days, if I do not receive the reply within 14 days, then what? If I do not receive the reply within 14 days, in that case, after end of, 45 days, after end of 45 days, I will forward my report to the central government. In that report, I will specify that I have not received a response from the management. After the end of 45 days, okay, stipulated 45 days period, I will forward the report to the central government along with a note containing the containing the details of the report that was earlier forwarded to the board, for which he has not received a reply or observation. So kind of I will share with the central government that I have not received any reply after the end of 45 days, and for that also I will get 15 days time. Okay, any doubt till now? Any doubt? Okay, again, so I'll just write the timeline here. First, 2 days to report to BOD. Then I will give them 45 days. Within 45 days, if I get the reply, if I don't get the reply. So report plus reply, if I get the reply, yes and no. If I get the reply, report plus reply within 15 days. If I don't get the reply, report plus note again within 15 days. Okay, to the central government. Now, that report is required to be shared, sent to the secretary of Ministry of Corporate Affairs in a sealed cover by the registered port acknowledgement due. So, register post with acknowledgement due or by speed post to the Secretary of Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Or and that should be followed by an email. That should be followed by an email. Okay. Then the report shall be on the letterhead of the auditor containing postal address, email address, his mobile numbers, his seal, signature, membership number, everything. And the same is also required to be filed in a statement format in Form ADT4. So Form ADT4 is used to report, okay, the same matter, okay, in a way of a form, that is ADT4. So this is how the manner in which the fraud is required to be reported above 1 CR. Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? Now, the question is, who is covered under board of directors or audit committee? Like board of directors and audit committee involve everything, no? Like the boards and the committee members. So not the officers or employees who are involved in the fraud, for sure. In case of a private limited company, still the board will be the directors of the company. Okay. OPC, if the person who is involved is the sole director or the shareholder, then any other authority over and above him who is a having a responsibility of governance, if no one is there, then directly we need to report to the central government. Yes, Shruti. If it is a very big listed company, I know 1 CR will be a very small limit, but still we will be required to report. So employee and officer will cover everything. So when I say a fraud committed by employee or officer, it will cover everyone in the entity, including board of directors, CEO, CFO, managing director, audit committee, everyone. So if, let's say, for example, board of directors are part of fraud, then will you report the matter to the board of directors once you identify within 2 days? Answer is no. If anyone who is involved in the fraud, you will not report the matter to that particular person. Rather, either you will, if let's say, for example, board is involved, report the matter to the audit committee. If audit committee and both are involved, in that case, we need to understand the situation, whether we need to intimate them or not. If they are involved and there's a chance that they might create an issue, or they might kind of erase the evidence, in that case we can directly report the matter to the central government if the amount is more than 1 CR. Then central government accordingly takes the action whatever they deem fit, and they might initiate the inquiries as per the we will see in investigation section that when and why, which are the powers of the central government registrar to initiate the inquiry into the affairs and matters of the company. Any further doubt, guys, with respect to reporting of fraud? Any further doubts? So that is more than 1 CR. Less than 1 CR, no need to report to the central government, just it will be reported to the board of directors or audit committee. So reporting to board of directors and audit committee when the amount involved is less than 1 CR. Okay. So the amount if is less than 1 CR, the auditor is required to report the matter to the audit committee. Constitution under section 177. If there is no audit committee, then board of directors. Within 2 days of his knowledge of fraud, and he shall report the matter specifying the following: nature and the description of fraud, approximate amount involved, and the parties involved. Okay. So either audit committee or board within 2 days of his knowledge with nature of the fraud and description, approximate amount, and parties involved. And these kind of frauds are, then reported by board of directors in their audit report, their board report. So I'll show you one thing. Disclosure in the board report for this particular part, if there will be any. Just a bit, let me show you. So the report of board of directors. Okay. And so there is a portion with respect to the fraud, if there is any. Okay, so we will see whether there is any fraud which have been reported by the auditor to the board, and whether that they have reported the same in their board report or not. So as of now, there is no matter that has been reported to the board of directors with respect to the fraud one. So it is not there, means there is no fraud reported less than 1 CR. Otherwise, that would have been part of this my board report. Okay. So that is as of now not part of the board report. So that is not there. Okay. I will try to check if I can find any case where we have such kind of scenario where it has been reported to the board and board has reported back. So I will try to check with such kind of scenario, but usually there are very less scenarios, and with respect to this one. Okay. Any doubt? Any doubt? No? Okay. So if no further doubts, okay, there is one doubt. Uh, any time limit to report to central government stating reason he has not received a reply or response? If he did not receive the response within 45 days, so still the time limit will be 15 days. And we need to share a note that when we initially shared our report with them, what was the 45 days period from where it started, where it was ending, and then with a detailed note, okay, we were supposed to receive a reply by this particular date, but we have not received. Okay, so in detail, it should be this was the date when we were supposed to receive the reply, and this day is calculated that on this day we shared a response with them. Okay, and we were expecting a reply on this particular date, but we have not received. Okay. Any further doubts? Any further doubt, guys? So there is a very good chart which is given in the study material summary form. This is kind of you can mark it as an important one. Okay, summary of section 143(12) of the Companies Act. Okay, so whatever we understood, so that is covered over here in a summary form, in a chart, in a form of flow chart. Now there is another section that I want to discuss, which is section 13, subsection 13 of section 143. Okay, subsection 13 or 143(13) talks about safeguard kind of provided to the auditor when he is reporting matter of fraud to the central government. Now 143(13) says that if the auditor, okay, is reporting a matter to the central government, and if the auditor has done that in good faith, okay, then in that case, it is kind of where there is no duty, that should be regarded that that auditor has contravened. For example, some companies or someone might say that auditor has breached the confidentiality, or they might say they have done to tarnish the image of the company. But 143(13) of the Companies Act safeguards the act of safeguard the act of fraud reporting done by auditor in good faith. So it is kind of a section where it is said that okay, it will be considered that there is no contravention, or auditor has not contravened any provision of the act if the reporting is done in the good faith. Okay. So kind of safeguard for the auditor under section 143(13) of the Act. And 143(15) and 14 both. Okay. 143(14) extends the application of fraud reporting on cost accountant and company secretary. So cost accountant and company secretary, that's a cost auditor and secretarial auditor, are also now part of fraud reporting. They are also required to do the fraud reporting. So section 143(12) is applicable to cost auditor and secretarial audit. If the auditor, cost auditor, secretarial auditor fails to report the matter, then there is a penalty of rupees 5 lakhs in case of a listed company, and in case of any other company, a penalty of rupees 1 lakh. So failure to report a fraud, penalty of 5 lakhs in case of a listed company, and a penalty of rupees 1 lakh in case of any other company. Penalty for failure to report fraud. Clear? Okay. So that is with respect to the reporting of fraud by the auditor. And it is very well explained in the study material. Trust me, study material explains it, had explained it in a detailed way. Okay. Now, the next part that I want to discuss, which is already there in the study material, uh, which is reporting under CARO 2020. Very important part and very crucial part, because it is it contains a lot of clauses, paragraphs, and it requires a level of understanding also. Okay, because questions can be asked on this particular part. Now, section 143(11) of the Companies Act, okay, gives the powers to the central government to, or in consultation with NAFRA, to impose any additional reporting requirements. So the central government may, in consultation with NAFRA, by general order or special order, direct such class of companies as may be specified, that the auditor of those companies shall include a statement therein. Okay. So, and that is where the CARO is notified, CARO 2020, as per section 143(11) of the Companies Act. Okay. But having said that, okay, now having said that, the order CARO 2020, okay, is has some exemptions in place. So it is not applicable to all the companies. It is applicable to the class of companies, and we need to understand what are these class of companies to whom it is applicable. Okay, so I'll just provide a short, kind of a, you can say, quick thing to remember, which will help you to remember that, okay, which are the exemptions in this scenario. So when I talk about CARO exemptions, the CARO exempts few classes of company, and those are, I usually write as in a this particular format. Okay. BIOS 8. Okay. BIOS 8, BIOS 8, and there is a kind of another particular, what do you say? Just a minute. Sorry. There's a kind of another exemption along with BIOS 8, that is plus private limited exemption that goes with, I'll explain what is private limited exemption and what is BIOS 8. But these are the exemptions which are there for the CARO. There is some exemption to the private limited, plus there is an exemption to BIOS 8 companies. And now what is this? We need to understand. Okay. So when I talk about BIOS 8, okay, and private limited, BIOS 8, it stands for banking company, insurance, OPC, small company, and Section 8 company. So these companies are currently exempted from, applicability of a CARO. CARO is not applicable to them. Now there's a private limited exemption. After this, if none of the categories is getting satisfied, you can check for the private limited exemption, which stands as which has few requirements. That is P1, D1, and R10. What is that? So P1, D1, R10 is if paid up share capital is less than 1 CR. Okay, less than 1 CR. I'll write it appropriately. Paid up share capital less than 1 CR. D1 stands for debt less than 1 CR. Okay. Now that is at any point in time. Any point during the year. Okay. When I talk about paid up share capital is based on the balance sheet date. Okay. So paid up share capital as on balance sheet date. Third one, that is R10. R10 stands for is your revenue, total revenue. Total revenue, okay, as disclosed in the Schedule 3 of the Companies Act, including revenue from discontinuing operations. Including revenue from discontinuing operations, okay, is less than 10 CR. Again, that is also as per the financial statement for that particular year. As per FS of that particular year, including revenue from discontinuing operations. So that is the requirement of CARO. If none of the exemption is there, then CARO is applicable. Again, kind of BIOS 8 plus private limited is an exemption from the CARO. That is banking, insurance, OPC, small section 8. If none of the exemption is getting triggered, you can check for private limited. If private limited exemption is not applicable, then by default CARO is applicable. And small company, as per section 285 of the Act that we already discussed, that is paid up share capital less than 4 CR plus turnover less than 40 CR, then only it will be called a small company. Otherwise, it will not be a small company. Clear? So kind of, that I was talking about BI, okay, OS 8 and PVT. Okay. Clear? Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Kind of a quick short form to remember the exemptions of the CARO. Any doubt? You can ask any doubt, guys, any doubt regarding syllabus, regarding anything. So you can ask any query. Don't worry. Don't think it is a silly query, small query, repeated query. Doesn't make any difference. Please ask as much you can. I want your understanding to be enhanced. I want you should have a clear understanding of the topics, everything. Today, in the last 10-15 minutes, Karuna ma'am from the Board of Studies will be joining us. Okay, and she will be also guiding us with respect to this subject. Okay, and she will be providing a valuable insights. Okay, for preparation of the subject. Okay, so please stay till the end. Okay, because that will be very important part. I will again say Karuna ma'am will be joining in the last 10 minutes, last 10-15 minutes. And you can ask any doubt from them also. It's not restricted that you need to ask now. You can ask your doubts them from her also. Okay. So there is one doubt, 143.13 again. Okay. 143.13 is kind of protection or a safeguard section for the auditor. If auditor is reporting any matter of fraud, okay, then if that is done in good faith, okay, then the company cannot say that that the auditor has contravened any duty or the provision of the act. Kind of, for example, at times it may happen that okay, auditor has reported a fraud to the central government. The company might come up and say that you have not complied with the terms and condition of the confidentiality, or you have done to tarnish the image of the company, to you have done this so that the company's share price can fall in the market, so something like that. But if the auditor has done that in good faith, and that's why there is a issue, I'll tell you. When I was discussing fraud reporting, we were talking about estimated amount of the fraud, because we have a reason to believe it may come out in a fraud, may not come out in a fraud. Okay, let's say for example, if auditor is writing to the central government, okay, there is a fraud. Now tomorrow, after investigation, the fraud doesn't come up. Everything comes good, clean. What in that case, it becomes a problem for earlier it was becoming a problem for the auditor, that companies were coming back to the auditor and they were claiming that the auditor has done to tarnish the image of the company, because now everything is clear, there is nothing fraud like thing, but auditor reported this thing because he has a reason to believe, which came out incorrect. To safeguard and to promote a healthy environment and to increase the transparency, this provision was brought into, so that auditors can be protected if the act is done in the good faith. So the critical thing is, if the act is done in good faith, then only the protection, the safeguard is applicable to the auditor. Clear? Yes, for the turnover limits, there is another doubt with the limits of the turnover and exemption in the CARO. Are we required to see the current year? Yes, we are required to see the current year limits for the CARO one. So that is as per the current one, current financial statement. We need to check the conditions every year. Yes. Uh, let's say, for example, if it's a banking company, then till the time the exemption is there for the banking company, you are not required to check it again. Okay. But till the time the exemption is there for banking company, you just it is for sure that it is not going to applicable, not going to be applicable. So no need to check it again, because by default it's a banking company. Till the time the exemption has not been withdrawn, exemption will be there. Same for the insurance, Section 8 or OPC company. Yeah, for the small company and the private limited company, you need to check the conditions every year. Whether it is, still falling under the category of small, or whether it is still falling under the category of private limited exemption. Any further doubts, guys? Shruti, can you rewrite your essay 701 down? I think there is, I have received it half. Can you rewrite it again? Okay. Now let us, see matters which are included in the CARO. Okay. Quickly, let us see few matters which are included in the CARO. So there in CARO, there are kind of 21 paras, and the para 21 of para 321 of the CARO is applicable only in the case of consolidation. So for a normal para 3 and sub paras 20 of para 3 are applicable in a normal scenario. Okay, so 20 sub para 3 sub para 20 of 3 are applicable to normal scenario. 321 is applicable to the consolidation. Okay, kind of a breakup which is there. Okay, now paragraph 3 contains the sub paragraphs on which auditor is required to report. So the matters, the items are there in paragraph 3 of the order for which the auditor is required to report, and which are, we'll see one by one. So matters to be included in the audit report, okay, which is paragraph 3 of the order. Number 1, whether the company is maintaining proper records showing full particulars including quantitative details, situation of property, plant and equipment. So again, with respect to the fixed asset, so whether proper records regarding the fixed asset have been maintained with respect to the plant, property and equipment. Second, whether the company is maintaining proper records showing full particulars of intangibles. Again, part of my fixed asset. Earlier it was plant, property, equipment. Now proper records with respect to intangibles. Third, whether plant, property, equipment has been physically verified by the management at a reasonable intervals, and whether any material discrepancies were noted on such verification. If so, whether the same has been properly dealt with. So physical verification of plant, property and equipment at a reasonable interval by management. And if discrepancies are there, material discrepancies, then adjustment in the books of account. Fourth, whether the title deeds of all immovable properties other than the properties where company is a lessee and the lease agreements are duly executed in the favor of the lessee, okay, disclosed in the financial statement, and are held in the name of company. If not, then provide the details. So if there is any immovable property, okay, whose title deeds, okay, like immovable property disclosed in the financial statement, whose title deeds are not in the name of company. If not in the name of company, then you need to provide the detail of the same. Okay, like description of the property, gross carrying value, held in the name of, if it is not held in the name of the company, then whose name it is is being held. Then held in the name of like director or managing director, or who is the one promoter, whether promoter or director or there is a relative one, period held, since when it is being held, and the reason not being in the name of company. Okay. Then whether the company has revalued its plant, property and equipment or intangible or both during the year. If so, whether the revaluation is based on the registered valuer, and specify the amount of change if it is more than 10% of the aggregate of, if the change is more than 10% in the aggregate of the net carrying value of each class of property. So again, whether there has been revaluation of plant property equipment or intangible? If yes, then whether the revaluation is based on registered valuer, okay, yes or no. And if the revaluation amount is more than 10%, okay, in the aggregate of net carrying value of each class of plant property or equipment, okay, each class. So I need to see the class by change. In that case, I need to specify the amount also. Three things: revaluation, yes or no; registered valuer, yes or no; amount if more than 10%. Then last, with respect to the fixed asset, is whether any proceedings have been initiated or are pending against the company for holding any Benami property under Benami Transaction Prohibition Act and rules made thereunder. If so, whether the company has appropriately disclosed the details in the financial statement. So if there is a proceedings under Benami property initiated or pending, okay, against the company for holding any Benami property under the act, then they whether they have, that the company has disclosed the appropriately the same in the financial statement or not. Let us see this with an example in the actual audit report. So this is the publicly available data. It's nothing something, it's a confidential data. It's not a confidential, publicly available annual report. Okay. One, whether proper books of accounts have been maintained by the company with respect to the quantitative details of plant property and equipment and intangibles. So auditor is saying over here is that the company has maintained proper records for plant property and equipment and for intangibles, both. Fine. Okay. Two, whether program of physical verification is there or physical verification is being conducted by management. If yes, then if there is any material discrepancy and whether it has been adjusted or not. So according to the information explanation given to us, basis of our examination of records, company has a regular program of physical verification, okay, in a phased manner over a period of 2 years. So there is a program, okay, appropriate program. Whether that periodicity is reasonable, yes, periodicity is reasonable having regard to the size of company. So they are talking about periodicity also. Then material discrepancy. So they are saying no material discrepancy were noted on such verification. So there is no discrepancy. Now third, with respect to title deeds. Whether title deeds are in the name of the company, if not, then provide the details. So see here, type description of the property, freehold land, building, everything is there. Building, leasehold properties, leasehold land. Okay. Gross amount as per the financials. This is the gross amount held in the name of whether it's some other company or whether it's a director or anyone else. Whether promoter, director, or their relative. No. So these are the company, not the promoter, director, or relative. Period held. Okay. Since when it is being held? 19 years, 3 years, 27 years, 23 years, 24 years, 29 years. And the reason is a pending litigation. Because of the pending litigation, pending application, pending litigation, these properties are not in the name of company. Then revaluation. So the company has not revalued its plant property and equipment. So nothing to report. Then Benami property. So there are no proceedings initiated against the company or pending against the company for holding any Benami property. So this is how the first para, para 3.1 of the CARO is reported, and it's there. It's with respect to the fixed asset, intangibles, or plant property and equipment, kind of. We can write para 3.1 with respect to fixed assets, okay, plus intangibles. So this is for records. Again, records. Okay, this is physical verification. This is title deeds. Then you have revaluation and Benami property. You can write these short forms or short words, kind of 1 or 2 words near to your para to remember. Okay, what it includes and where it is. Kind of 3-1 fixed asset. It includes records, physical verification, title deeds, revaluation, and Benami property. Okay, clear? Any doubt? Yedu Kondalu, basically, I have not seen a voluntary reporting on CARO as of now till now, but there is nothing which stops the auditor to report voluntarily. So if you want to report, he can report voluntarily. There is nothing to stop him. Okay. So guys, we have Karuna ma'am with us. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, good morning. So hope I am not disturbing. Your topic is covered now. So,
Ma'am.
so good morning, students. So this is our, I think, second interaction for new scheme. Yeah. And hope you are enjoying the auditing subject, because I can see that we are going through, we are having practical insight in our session, right? Like you have covered this SA 700 series, that is very important and crucial. Auditor's role is very, very important for while reporting. So in audit report, I think Harshad sir has already covered with the help of annual report and how the opinions are being framed, how we means with practical insights he tried to explain. I was also listening to him while those classes. So hopefully you are enjoying, and in case if you have any doubt regarding syllabus, like which of the standards, there are some confusion among the students, which are the standards, because in syllabus some of the standards are given that since these standards are covered at intermediate level and not at final, so only practical side of those standards will be covered, right? So in case if you have any doubt regarding that, you can ask me for that. And hopefully you are making your own notes, because it's very, very important that you are studying at the same point of time when we are covering that particular chapter. You are preparing your notes and you are attending many more questions, right? With the help of flowcharts, you can make your revision notes. So when you are preparing when you are having only 2 days duration or 1 day duration, when you for examination, you are able to revise, right? Whatever important questions are there, you are noting in one notebook, so that when revising those questions which are covering major aspects, you are able to correlate, and you're not missing anything, which is very, very important. So Shruti is conveying good morning, and there Mr. Chitala is saying really enjoying the session with practical examples. Yes, we have tried to cover as many as practical examples, so that you can have feel how we can audit, how when we will be going for practically implementing those standards, because standards are very, very important. So at least you will be able to apply that, and you'll be able to understand that auditing is not a only theoretical subject or boring. It's practical. Basically, it's very, very important. You need to understand how we will apply those standards, because you might have observed that in new syllabus we have one SQC and then 35 standards, and SA 800 series also now being included. So 3 standards are those. So 38 standards, 1 SQC, then SAE, SRE, and SRS. So overall total 46 standards. And you might have observed that on website we have given skill-wise and section-wise weightage. So for that part specifically, minimum 50 marks weightage is there. So it's very, very important. Now coming, I think you all are clear that the standards, all the standards are applicable for final examination, but those standards which are not covered at intermediate will be covering in depth at final level. But for those standards, like I said, 210, it's covered at intermediate level. So we are not covering in depth, but in examination, there might be any question on practical aspect or application based question for that particular standards, right? So it's very clear that because when you will be preparing opinion, drafting opinion paragraph, right? So then you need to refer all the standards because application of those standards will definitely be impacting the opinion. So you cannot say if this standard is not applicable. So okay, so you need to cover all the standards. Now you might have doubt about that company audit part, right? That we are covering here CARO, then section 143 is also being covered for your syllabus, powers and duties, right? So there might be a doubt that from company audit part, then when you will be referring chapter professional ethics, you might have observed that qualification and disqualification part or other rotation means sections are interlinked with that chapter, right? So that part we are covering in law subject, but application, because now you are able to understand that in auditing you should be aware of accounting provisions, Ind AS, accounting standards, law sections, and auditing standards. Of course, these are applicable. Then relevant laws also you need to take care. For banking chapter, you need to be aware of banking regulations. For NBFC also you need to see the provisions which are applicable. So you need to refer those X regulations, etc. So accordingly, you need to cover. Now, I think Shruti is asking, ma'am, in your last session, you told that there are few standards like 230, which are not in study mat, but will be covered in exam. Yes. Because that's why I'm clarifying now that these standards, though it's not covered in study material, but if you see at the end, we have given reference of Saransh. Saransh is what? Where we have covered all the standards in flowchart form. If we will be giving all the standards at final level in our study material, then our study material will be bulky, right? So for that purpose, we are giving reference that these standards you have already covered at intermediate level. So in final, only application part will be applicable. And for that, if you want to refer SA 230, SA 210, or whichever standards it's given in the form of note in the syllabus, for that, auditing pronouncements soft copy link is there on the website. I think you all have seen that section-wise, scale-wise weightage as well, which is uploaded on website. Have you gone through? Have you seen what is the applicability? How many marks part is for that particular section? Which are the topics covered in the section? And I think you all are aware that again, this time also in May 24 examination, we will be having 100 marks paper, right? 30 marks paper will be again integrated case scenario based and MCQ based, right? Case scenario based questions will be asked. And then 70 marks again descriptive part, right? So for 30 marks, I think Harshad sir is already covering with the help of MCQs, case scenarios, and practical examples of balance sheet and how to analyze and how to apply that particular standard. In case if you feel that we need to add something else in the lecture, you can. Yes, that's what I was also planning to share and you have shared. So if you want us to add something more in the chapter, because I think the way we are coming out with the chapter covering in our lecture standard base, that we are telling you what is the relevance of that standard, what is the importance of that standard, how you can apply those in when you are going for audit. So that part you can see that in section 1 SQC1 SE 220 240 250 260 299 402, that is chapter 2. Then again you see it's very, very important that in note we have given that content of essay 200, 210, 230 is already covered in depth at intermediate level. So we will be covering only application part of that particular standard in the form of case studies at final level, right? So you need to be, you cannot say that this standard is not applicable since it is not covered in my in our study material. Okay. And why the question is given in test your understanding or in test your knowledge part. Okay. And if you are referring our study material, you might have observed that we are coming out with a short scenario. We are trying to explain that importance of that particular chapter, what we are covering in that story form. And after that, we have tried to cover all the content which is given in the syllabus. And after that, in between, we have put questions like test your understanding. So I have received the query on mobile app that where are the answers? So answer of the test your understanding is given at the end of chapter only, along with the test your knowledge question. So at the end, you may observe that in maximum chapter 1, integrated case scenario is also being given, right? And at the end, we have test your knowledge part. And this time we have also added summary part also. So in case if you have any feedback for study material also, that is also that also you can write to us. Your feedback is very, very important. It will always help us to improvise where we are lacking and where we can improvise. It will always be very, very helpful. So you can write your feedback to us, right? And in lecture also, if you want to add some more questions or some you want to means you want us to make it more interesting, how we can go about it, that also you can share with us. Yeah. Any other query if you have? 1 second. So Manoj is saying really helpful and an easy way to explain by the faculty. Yes, that's why we have tried to cover. And yes, ma'am, section wise weightage. Yeah, section wise weightage you need to refer because now till the time we have covered our NC 700 series. Okay, almost all the topics were already being covered. So to make it more interesting, we have tried to inbuild more practical insights. We have tried to cover more practical questions, right? So that is the reason we are covering financial statements. We are referring annual reports, and with the help of that, we are trying to explain you. But now we will be coming out with some very, very important chapter and that are very new for you, like SA 800 series, SAE, SRE, SRS, then your chapter on ESG, and that chapter on digital assurance. These chapters are totally new for you. So you need to understand those in very detail and you need to focus. You need to prepare notes for that also because though we are trying to cover with many more examples, with many more questions, and Harshad sir is already covering the same with very friendly manner, and your doubts are also being taken care that I'm properly observing and I'm having feedback. So that is the reason we always seek for your feedback because your feedback is very, very important, not only for study material, for classes, and for any other activity for those matter, revisionary test paper, mock test paper, right? So that we can improvise on that. So it's very, very important. So please try to understand the importance of your feedback and you try to give, right? And one query, I think Manoj is saying that I'm unable to log in on the self-paced portal class and paper 2. So whatever is this is not pertaining to auditing, but you can, for this, you write to me through mobile app so that I can forward it to concerned person. Okay. And Chitala is saying ki ma'am, when will a new MCQ booklet will be available? I don't see any in the ICAI portal yet. So actually, just see that this time ICAI has come out with MCQ portal. MCQ practice portal is very, very, it's for you so that you can test your understanding whether, because that report is also being generated in that, if you have observed. And the questions which you have correctly attended, that will not come back to you. But those questions where you have committed any mistake or where you have given wrong answer, that will revert back to you and you have to attend till the time it is not being corrected. So for that, MCQ portal is there in and where you can practice integrated case scenarios also. And this is for all the subjects. So you need to simply log in and it's very, very easy. It will take only fraction of seconds and you just log in it. If you can show it or should I? 1 second, let me show it. Because it's very easy and you can practice with the help of 1 second, Let me share my screen. So my screen is visible? So you can see that on ICAI website, on BS Knowledge Portal, when you will be clicking on BS Knowledge Portal, you can see its student login. You can select course for final. Whatever is your registration number, you can write and your date of birth and you can log in. With the help of that, you can see, one second. I am filling it and I will show it to you how it is coming.
I have opened. Should I show? Like MCQ practice one.
1 second. 1 second. Yeah. So you can see when you have login, this will be like you can join BOS academic Twitter handle also. On that we always upload whatever is your recent amendments, whatever we are coming out with, like for new batch or for BOS for your success or anything. So when you will log in, you can see your live classes, MCQ paper practice, BOS for your success, live class schedule, mock test paper, notes, and everything is over there. You can go and for MCQ paper practice, you just see is there multiple choice question practice paper dashboard, and you can. This is the facility which we have tried to provide you with this new feature, and you can attend the question. You can attend the question. You can see. 1 second. Start new practice session, result of MCQ practice session, and result of case scenario practice session, right? So these many questions are there, and we are trying to come out with more and more questions. This is the facility we have tried to cover. For MCQ booklet, of course, we'll be working, but you can see there are lot many questions. Chapter wise also being given with simple, medium, and difficult level, and integrated case scenarios are also being uploaded, right? You can practice with the help of that. So Suraj is saying I'm unable to access chat box in the live class on the BOS mobile app. So I don't think you need to use chat box because it's live and you have already registered, you have already logged in, and with the help of that only you can directly send your query, and that query will be received to all the faculties whoever is taking session. Like for auditing subject, Harshad sir is taking the session, so he will receive your query. Maybe due to some internet connectivity, maybe it's more or less somehow late, but it will definitely receive. And I am seeing that he is trying to cover almost all the queries. So student, you need to put in your sincere efforts that you are covering the chapter, whatever is being covered in this lecture. You need to prepare your own notes. You need to practice more and more questions. And in next session, you can come out with your questions. You can ask your doubts, right? And after covering all the standards, still if you feel that there should be one session for queries, particularly, specifically, right? So that also you can tell us, and we will definitely schedule that session for you. Or if any of the topic you feel that on this particular session we are finding difficulty to understand, it's very, very important, but it's crucial to understand, and we need one more session for that, then also you need to write in your feedback, and we'll definitely help you in that. Because as I told you, now we will be having 10 new standards. ESG is new, then your digital assurance chapter is purely different, and practical aspects are there, and you might have practiced a lot of questions because on these topics lot many questions are there, right? So you need to practice and you need to prepare your own notes, and we are here for your hand holding. We are here to help you more and trying to provide you practical insights, and here for hand holding. So you need to support us for your success, because ultimate aim is that you are successful. You are able to capture what we are trying to tell with the help of this lecture, what is covered in the study material, what is covered in your syllabus. You need to understand and you need to practice more. So we are here to guide you and help you. else you require that this topic should be covered in more depth or in more detail, though it is covered at intermediate level, but we want to understand more, that part also we will try to cover. If you have any other query, you can ask me. Otherwise, I think we can close the session. And with this, I think wish you all the very best. Again, I'm telling you, your feedback is very, very important. And please be focused, study hard. Okay, because ultimately it will only pay, and auditing is not a boring subject if you understand when you are going for audit how you will apply those standards, how you will document, why engagement letter is important, why it is need to be, who will give that engagement letter, to whom it will be, and who will acknowledge that engagement letter, when there is a requirement of change in the engagement letter, why new engagement letter is required, or whether we can continue with the same. And in each standard there are lot many questions which we can understand with practical insights. So standards are not boring. It's you need to understand how it will be applied. Like audit evidence series, it's very, very important, and we have covered chapter completion and review in that, and those two chapters are basically particularly covering SA 500 series, and all those standards which are covered at intermediate level, you might have seen that at final level we have tried to cover with the help of practical case scenario, right? So in that manner, for remaining standards also, you need to apply those standards and you need to practice more. And we are always there to help you. And if you want to have any other help from our side, please write to us. Mayur is writing, ma'am, do we need to read auditing pronouncement for examination? Dekho, Mayur, for auditing pronouncement is what? It is basically standards on auditing, right? So we have tried to cover everything in our study material. In case, if you find any difficulty, you can refer auditing pronouncement. That SA 200, 210 or 230, it's covered at intermediate level. Hai na? So for that standard, if you find any difficulty, and that part is not covered, but though we have given link of Saransh, that part is not covered in final study material, only question part will be there. So if you find any difficulty for that part, then you need to refer auditing pronouncement for your reference, so that you can make your own notes, because ultimately at the end your answer should be correct. Because application part, for that also you need to understand the application of that particular standard, for drafting the opinion, for analyzing that situation which is given in the question for basis of opinion paragraph. Then also you need to require whether the compliance of standard is there or not. One more thing I would like to add, that we have our capsule on SA 800 series, SAE, SRE and SRS. We have come out with the capsule, so it's uploaded on website in case you have not seen. So since Harsha sir will be covering those topics, so you can refer that also, but I will not say that you refer as it is. I will suggest keep it for your reference, understand with in the class, and prepare your own flowcharts, because it will make you help that you are able to memorize it, you are able to understand application part, and you'll be able to remember. And for those standards, those 10 standards which are covered in SA 800 series, SE, SRE, SRS, will be only basic and overview. So whatever is covered in the study material should only be, I think it's sufficient for that. And writing the section is important. Correct and correct questions are not asked in the final examination. Even now, in final examination, knowledge-based questions will also not be asked. It will be purely practical based or situation based only, either integrated case scenario, or if it is MCQ also, that will also be not like single line question or knowledge-based question that what is this. That part will be purely application based only. Now, what is, 1 second. Shruti is asking, writing the section number is important, ma'am. See, Shruti, if I'm calling you with your name, you might have felt you might have felt importance and weightage, right? So in same way, when we are writing in the examination, if we have developed habit of mentioning the section number, it's always good, right? So it all depends, because now the section related chapters are very less, but particularly like today we have started CARO 2020, or for professional ethics, it's always good if we refer clause number, schedule number, okay, of the Chartered Accountant Act 1949. Because when I generally give the example of doctor, because we would like to go to doctor who is specialist. So after this final examination, you will be the chartered accountant. You are future of our profession, right? It is very, very important. If you try to retain, it's very good. If you are not able to, you just help, because you need to practice more and more for that. And when you will be having writing practice, you will definitely be able to retain in your mind also, and you will be able to put in the answer. It's always good. If you are not able to, then it's altogether different. Otherwise, I feel that you should try to develop habit. And when you are making your notes now, you can just put one pager where you are writing clause number and you can shortcut make for that, for remembering. Hai na? And in Code of Ethics, I think at the end of chapter only we have given all the clauses for summary. So for that, you can prepare according to that, and you will be able to retain that. Because for CARO or for this professional ethics, clause number are very, very important. Companies Act law, now the very less sections are applicable, right? Powers, duties, appointment, very less sections are now there. So if we develop that habit, it will be good. Because for banking, we don't expect you to write any section number. For NBFC, we are not forcing you. Only for 45 means very less sections are there which you need to retain in your brain. But for CARO, for professional ethics, it's very important. For essay series, essay name also should be remembered, right? Essay name should be, you should be knowing ki, yes, what is essay 505? It's external confirmation. What is 550 related party? What is 560 subsequent event? So that part should be in your brain because you have practiced a lot. And when you're writing the answer, if you write, because when you're presenting any case in the court, if you don't give any reference of any case law or any section, then you can understand what will be the weightage of that case and what will be the importance. Same way, when you're writing in final examination, it's always good if we give reference of particular section or particular clause. Then we give that explanation, that provision, and then explain it and link it with the case study and give conclusion part. Okay. So I think I have tried to cover almost, and is saying, yes, ma'am, most of the companies like Provision and CARO, we have studied it at Inter also. So then that's why I'm saying it's very easy if we retain it. If we will develop this habit to retain, then it will be. Because nowadays we are having mobile number. So we don't remember mobile number of others because it's already there in phone book. So we just need to click. But when sometimes we don't have our phone, and if we are in emergency situation, so some important numbers are already stored in our brain, and that number we can dial, right? So in same way, important sections are only there in your study material now, because earlier it used to be lot many sections, but now it's very limited. So if you develop this habit, you will be able to write, and it will always, I think it will be effective presentation from your side as well, which I also expect you from at the final level. But yes, if you are not able to, then don't. It's not compulsory, but it's always good. And it generally, what I should say, when examiner is paper checker is reading, then it, of course, it impacts, right? So you just practice. If you practice more and more, then you can have it. Any other query, or we can wind up? If you want to ask anything specifically. Any insight on professional ethics? So I think first chapter we covered was professional ethics only, and it's very interesting. So you might have prepared your notes also. Professional ethics, we have come out with capsules also. So clause wise, you need to understand. And when there is a question in the examination, it's very, in fact, easy to understand, because professional ethics is what we need to comply with. What is correct, what is not correct, what is ethically correct or not correct, threats, safeguards. So I think these are mainly important. Then we have schedules, some sections, and guidelines. So these part are there, and it's very interesting. If you have any specific query about that chapter, you can definitely ask me specifically, because I think that is the most interesting chapter. And in that chapter, maximum students are fetched marks. Because any of the chapter they can leave, but the professional ethics, they generally, I got feedback that's very, very interesting chapter, ma'am. And because many more examples are covered in study material also, and you can interrelate it with your practical situation also, ki what we can do or what we cannot do, whether we can solicit, whether we can ask for work, whether we can ask from another chartered accountant or we cannot, whether we can write ourselves as a chartered accountant and company secretary, or we can use CS word. So these all parts are also covered in that part. So in case if you have any specific query for that chapter, you can ask me, Shruti, or you can in fact write to me also through mobile app. So otherwise, I think it's very, very nicely covered in a lecture. And in case you specifically want to discuss anything, that you can write. So I think all queries are resolved and all are happy. And so please be attentive, because next chapters are very, very important. And those chapters are new. Okay. So you need to study, and please develop habit that along with the session only we are trying to learning, we are trying to cover, and those questions which are covered in the session you are practicing again, and notes are already being uploaded. Generally it's uploaded, so you can refer that part also, right? So thank you once again. Thank you, and wish you all the very best. And please make a habit to study regularly, make your own notes, have writing practice, write at least 1 or 2 questions daily. So your speed will also be improvised, and your analytical power, whether you are able to understand the question properly, that what is being asked in the question, because sometimes it may happen that question is talking about something else and we are answering on some other part, or sometimes in question there are 2 parts and we are answering only on 1 part. So that we need to take care. So if you are having writing practice, if you are attending mock test paper, or you are attending test your knowledge question, and with the help of with the writing practice, then only you'll be able to analyze where you are lacking and where you need to improvise. Because sometimes what happens, when we read the question, we think, yes, ye to aata hai, and it's very easy to answer. And when we are writing, then we are able to understand what are the practical difficulties. So please develop this habit that you are writing on regular basis at least 1 or 2 questions. This practice will help you a lot when you will be appearing for your final examination, and then you'll remember my this advice. So with this, wish you all the very best and have a great learning experience. And thank you very much, Harshad, because you are taking them for experiential learning. You are making them, yes, what is covered at practically and how they need to dealt with it. So with that, thank you all. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Harshad.